This is TWiT. The HomePod came out on Friday, and I'm sure you've been reviewing it. Devindra, you said something I thought fairly controversial.
Oh, no.
Which was that the iPhone 10 was Apple's last great product. Does that...
Yeah.
Since the only other product since then...
It wasn't that long ago. It was
is the HomePod. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
is that a backdoor diss for the HomePod?
I mean, the HomePod was delayed, and even now it's like not fully ready. Brian's review is really good.
Don't rush to buy it, says Brian.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's a half-baked product right now.
I don't know. I kind of feel like I was a little bit harder on it than other people. Do you guys feel that way?
You weren't as hard on it as I was.
Really? Okay, because like I felt like it just feels like it's unfinished, right? Because Siri does a lot more on the iPhone than it does on the HomePod, and so it's been training us to use Siri in a certain way, and yet things like the calendar, which I use a lot with Siri, doesn't work on the HomePod. Things like hailing a car doesn't work on Siri on the HomePod, but it works on the iPhone, and other things like that. So it just feels like I don't know why they released it when it's not really done. I mean, indisputably it's not done because that multi-room speaker feature is not out yet. So what I don't really get is if they're already late, why even come out when it's unfinished? It kind of makes it hard for me to write about because I'm like, well, the music part sounds great, but all this other stuff doesn't work, and that's awkward.
Devindra, you agree?
I mean, I've only listened to it a bit. Chris Velasco at Engadget is going to be reviewing that for us. It sounds really good because it's a $350 super high-tech speaker. But yeah, I agree. The Siri stuff is it feels really unfinished, really weak in comparison to what we're getting from Alexa speakers. I also tested out the Harman Kardon Invoke, which is the Cortana speaker, and even that felt more fully featured than the HomePod. And that thing's just $200.
So, did either of you get invited to the briefings that Apple had in Cupertino?
Yeah. I went to the HomePod briefing about 2 weeks ago. We went to the Audio Lab tour where they showed us how they tested.
This was supposed to, you're not getting the Kool-Aid soaked in. So let me channel Tim Cook here and say, but what you guys don't understand, it's not a Siri device. It's a speaker. It's all about the sound. We're reinventing how speakers work. The Siri capability is merely to play music. It's not you're thinking it's an echo. It's not an echo. It's a new kind of music listening device.
But yeah, so it was Phil Schiller who said that, and
sorry,
no worries.
Channeled the wrong guy.
Basically, he was saying so he was giving us the history of how the HomePod was made, right? So it's been in development for 6 years, on and off. Like they tabled it for a little bit in between, and so they started it before Apple Music even launched, before they even bought Beats even, and before HomeKit came out, right? So the HomePod comes out after this. I mean, it's in development before that, but all this stuff comes out in the middle. And then suddenly they had to get this HomePod to work with these new services that Apple has, So that's you can kind of get the sense of why it was so chaotic to develop this thing. But then when you try it, you're going to realize like, this thing doesn't really seem like it's that polished yet. It doesn't really seem like it's done. So, I mean, how much can you justify it being that dumb? It sounds amazing. It sounds great. But if you're competing...
This is where I would disagree.
Okay.
I don't think it sounds that amazing.
Okay.
I think Apple fails on all fronts. Now, it sounds good. It sounds fine.
It's good.
That's the first I've heard.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, because look, I'll read some of the headlines. Apple HomePod review. This is Joanna Stern. Super sound, but not super smart. They agreed with you. The iMore folks. Retina for your ears.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Nilay Patel in The Verge said, I am a speaker fanatic, and he showed off his analog stereo, and I think this sounds amazing. But there's a problem. There's something called physics, and I know that the Australian Prime Minister thinks that physics is not an immutable law, but I think physics is an immutable law, and this, which is not a HomePod, it's just an amazing simulation. This is too small to really be a great speaker. So I think if you're going to say it sounds good, you really should add the clause, it sounds good for its size.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. And it definitely does fill up the whole room like a
that's
small
one thing that's interesting because it has
really
tweeters
loud
all around it, so it doesn't need... You don't need to sit in front of it. Everywhere is equal.
Yeah, and that's it. I'm not an audiophile, so I'm not going to pretend that I know great details about like these 7 tweeters and all that stuff and have like a great attention to detail when it comes to sound. But, it sounds really good to me compared to a lot of speakers I've tried. But I don't think that really justifies the fact that Siri is quite inadequate compared to how it even is on the iPhone, or how it's compared to Alexa even. Like, here's a thought experiment, guys. So imagine if Apple had waited another year and made all those features work that are missing on Siri and released it as it is with nice music, nice sound, and all those nice features working as a virtual assistant.
Well, there's another problem. It only works with Apple Music. Here's my opinion. This is designed for somebody who is bathing in the warm glow of the Apple bath. Right. This is for somebody, because you can't even set it up if you don't have an iPhone or an iPad. You can't,
not even a Mac. You can't use a Mac,
You cannot use it without an iPhone or an iPad.
Wow.
So that's insane. So this is a product designed for somebody who's absolutely in the I mean, I'm not going to say Apple sheep, but somebody who's really in the Apple ecosystem and wants something that is already a subscriber to Apple Music, wants something that works with Apple Music. It sounds fine for its size. My issue is, you know, we did a comparison yesterday on the new Screensavers. We compared the Invoke, the Harman Kardon, which did not sound as good. The Sonos One, which is Sonos's small Play One speaker with Amazon Echo built in, which actually wasn't as good, but was close, and it's half the price. You could buy two and get a stereo pair. That might be fairly competitive. We compared it,
or get a Play 3 and an Echo Dot, right? Like, there are other ways to do that.
Compared to a Play 3 or a Play 5, I don't think the Apple's HomePod is as good. And I guess the point I would really make is, if you want a good speaker, if you want good sound, this is how I think of it. You know, I brought this up. Keith Richards, the guitarist for the Rolling Stone, wrote most of their songs with Mick Jagger. He got his musical education listening to a tinny transistor radio in bed, listening to a pirate radio station out in the ocean. It sounded crappy, but that's how he heard Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and became, you know, a music fanatic. Paul McCartney, same thing. I mean, you're still getting some music, but there's all the music that you would hear in a live performance. And then with each smaller device, each less capable device, you get less and less of the music. If you're really into music, you should freaking get a stereo. Spend a little bit more money and get a stereo. Get two speakers and sit at the apex of the triangle and listen. And if I put the HomePod in the middle and listen to my stereo, it's not, it's like a different song. It's like different music. It's completely a different experience. You're getting a quarter of the full experience when you listen to the HomePod. So for Apple to say, well, no, it's not a Siri device, it's a new way of thinking about music, is wrong.